Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talkin Hearthstone, the podcast where we talk about Hearthstone. This is episode 19, and we're here to talk about patch 13.0.3. Pardon me. This is the one that everyone's been excited about. I like the fact that we've taken 2 weeks after the expansion before we've decided to do a patch. I'm going to go through the patch notes. I don't have a ton of time today. In fact, I've only got about 20 minutes before I have to get going and pick up my son from school. It's been one of those days where things are just it's always the busy days where these things drop. But one of the things that I wanted to do with this podcast is I wanted to be able to give you guys up to the minute thoughts on new things that are happening, kind of like we used to get emergency podcasts from Off Curve with Wicked Good when these things dropped. He no longer does that, and I feel like these patches drop and we want to talk about them. So I'm going to read through the dev comments here. Pardon me. All right. So Hearthstone card changes. The dev comments are: the goals of this patch is to focus on the Great Dark Beyond. The power level of new decks and archetypes is lower than we intended it to be, and old archetypes are more dominant than we'd like. To make new decks and cards stand out more, we're weakening a number of cards, mostly from the older sets, and strengthening others, all from the Dark Beyond. Our long-term ambition is for overall power level of the game to be closer to the Great Dark Beyond than the power levels of the sets before it, but we think some buffs are warranted and needed to hit our immediate goals, encouraging exploration of the Great Dark Beyond. Between balancing our immediate and long-term goals, plus the sheer number of changes in this patch, we expect there will be some level of follow-up adjustments that we plan to work on in the next balance patch window after we see how these changes affect the meta, coming before a winter break. We're already at that time. In deciding which cards to bring down in power, we looked at three major categories: overly powerful card archetypes from older expansions, cards that led to frustrating play experiences, even if not overly powerful, and three cards that were overly hostile to new expansion cards and mechanics, like starships. So, first off, we have Reno. Reno is being adjusted. Old battle cry: if your deck started with no duplicates, empty the enemy board and limit the space for one turn. New battle cry: if your deck started with game with no duplicates, remove all enemy minions from the game. So, Reno has been a polarizing card since the release. He is necessarily strong payoff to singleton decks, which many players really enjoy, but playing against him can be really frustrating, especially his next turn board limitation. It's been difficult to balance these competing player interests, and we don't make this change lightly, but we felt Reno was due for an update to no longer hit minions, dormant minions, etc., so we could give starships a better chance to fly. This essentially, I think, kills Reno. I expect that they will revert it when it goes to wild in April, but there's really no reason to play this, right? Unless you're already playing a Reno deck for, say, Staff of the Nine Frogs or Bran or whatever, then it's a board clear. Then the hero power is pretty good. It's 5 armor, but this essentially kills Reno. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Next up is Lamplighter. Old is 4/3, Battlecry, deal 1 damage, improved each turn in a row you've played an elemental. New is 4/4, Battlecry. If you played an elemental last turn, deal 4 damage. Elemental decks are designed to be tempo decks that can play for board and be aggressive. We wanted to have some finishing power, but Lamplighter gave the deck more direct damage than we'd like. We think this change, instead of making it cost more only to hit minions, better aligns with the goals for the archetype. I don't think this was a necessary nerf. I understand people probably are a little frustrated with Elemental Mage being as strong as it was, and you definitely had to bring the power level down, but this doesn't change it. Lamplighter was a nice over-the-top finisher, and maybe we're talking a percentage point or two, but this was not how you won. This is not how I typically won. So I think that we didn't need to do Lamplighter, but, it is what it is. Next up is Seabreeze Chalice. Old, deal 2 damage randomly split amongst all enemies. Now it's deal 2 damage randomly split among all enemy minions. This no longer goes face. This is no longer a win condition. And you'll find this a theme of what we're going to see is we have reduced the general level of lethality amongst a lot of these cards. So I like this change. I never really liked the Seabreeze deck itself. So it was always frustrating to lose against and boring to watch being played. So I like this change. I think this change is fine. All right, now for the biggies. Conniving Conman. Old, Battlecry. Replace the last card you played from a non-road class. New, Battlecry. Replace the last card you played from another class. Sea Shrill, old battle cry. The next card you play from a non-rogue class costs 2 less. New battle cry. The next card you play from another class costs 2 less. So these are basically just general, I think, reversions to what they used to read like. I believe this essentially kills big spell mage, or at least brings it down in power. It definitely has some effect on paladin, Pipsy paladin, as well. So I think these are good changes, um, and necessary changes. Sleep Under the Stars, old mana 7, new mana 8. This card probably could cost 10 mana and still be fine. Now, Quasar, old mana 6, new mana 8. Dev comment, yeah, our bad. Every expansion would like to make a few dreamy cards, dreamies in quotes, that get players thinking about how far they can push the game. These cards aren't supposed to be the most competitively viable. The fun of them is wondering what if. Quasar mostly fell into that category. It certainly got the dreamers cooking and it hasn't turned out to be the competitive power outlier. But the experience when this card does work are too sharp and end games too early, turning the dream into a nightmare to play against. I think Quasar needed to change. I didn't really care that much because it lost so much. When they had the Quasar turn, that usually was a sign for me to get up and go get a drink or something like that. So, I know a lot of people really hated this, and I could get frustrated with it myself. So, good change. Um, it's fine. Everything Must Go was 8 mana. Now it's 9 mana. That's fine. I don't think that. Well, the thing that this does actually, so this does a lot, right? So now this kind of cripples the ability to use the robot that draws 3 cards, Robocaller, and draw this twice automatically, and then you would bounce it and play it again. So that is no longer a combination that works. So this essentially, I would think, that kills Cycle Rogue, probably. So yeah. Next we have Malted Magma, which is used to be 1 mana, 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Now it's 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Again, see the theme. This stuff doesn't go face anymore. This is a big hit to this affects not elemental shaman, excuse me, asteroid shaman a little bit, but not really. This affects this is it just little extra lethality is often enough to win you some closer games when you can just get that little extra chip damage in. And this was a powerful card. I was seeing it playing a lot of decks. I like the change, even though it's going to probably hurt some of the decks I like to play. But again, I like that we're kind of bringing down the level of lethality. It's going to slow some games down, which means hopefully we can do things like Starships and Librams. Wave of Nostalgia went from 5 mana to 6 mana. I mean, this is one of the. I didn't see a ton of it, but it is one of the best decks in the game, and it can be frustrating, especially when you have your Starships. I think they want to let people play Starships. I don't think this makes a huge difference in when it comes down, but it does definitely affect like a tokeny kind of deck where if they play it and they get Nostalgia down on like turn 6 or 5 if they have the coin. I'm not against this change. This is fine. Threads of Despair used to cost 2 mana. Now it costs 3 mana. This change is fine. They could have made it cost 4, and I think it would have been great. Nice, basically it was a 4 mana clear. Now it's a 5 mana clear. Still good because hero power. Reska the Pit Boss, old 20 mana, new 25 mana. Good. This could use the nerf. I also think they could have made it 30. I could have made it 40. I still would have been okay with that. But yeah, this card has needed a nerf for a while. I think it leads to it steals rocket ships, right? And that's what they don't want. They want people to be able to play their rocket ships and launch them. So I see this change. Funnel Cake, old was 1 mana. Now it is 2 mana. This changes a lot about it. You can no longer get copies of it from Pip the Potent. You can no longer. This is not the change I thought they were going to make. I thought they were going to make it so that way you could only cast it on friendly minions, because as of right now, if you're behind on board, you could use this card to get yourself caught back up on board. And yeah. So that's a fine change to, I don't know if this was absolutely necessary, but I'm not sad about it. I think it's fine. So far all these nerfs are just fine to me. We also have Mystery Egg, which went from 4 mana, old miniaturized Death Rattle, get a copy of Random Beast in your deck that costs 4 less. New miniaturized Death Rattle, get a copy of Random Beast in your deck that costs 3 less. This is a very, very strong card, and it does stupid things. That extra mana might make a difference, but I don't think it kills the deck or the cards at all. It just maybe slows things down a little bit, and if you're already slowing down the meta, I think this will be fine. And finally, Order in the Court. Yes, you heard me, Order in the Court. It used to be reorder your deck from highest to lowest cost. New, reorder your deck from highest to lowest cost. Draw a card. This is how it used to work. And dev comments basically say that is basically the entire point of this is so it means that you're not putting $100 damage a Holy Wrath target on the deck. This affects Wild. This lets them unban Ceaseless Expanse and Wild, but you're no longer able to hit them for 100 damage from hand. There's still ways to do it, obviously, if you can figure things out, but this is fine. I think this makes some sense. And it says the above cards plus disenchantable copies of Master's Call. More on that in the bug fixes and game improvement sections. Will be eligible for full dust refunds for 2 weeks following the patch. If you've been holding off on dusting Reno, if you need dust, you can definitely do it. Eve, anything you want to dust, you can, because basically you're getting the full value from. Just know that if you want to recraft it later, you still need that dust. So if you spend it on something else, then you're kind of out of luck. But overall, I've enjoyed all these changes. I really wish they would have done something more with Ziliax, because I think that we've now just kind of, Ziliax is now, I wouldn't say stronger, but it's there everywhere. I think we will see it change again before the end of the Dark Beyond. Is one of the more frustrating cards to play against, even if it's one of the more fun cards to play. I love the design of it. I think it's awesome. I think it's an awesome card, but it's frustrating how often we see it into things. But yeah, so I like all the nerfs. I think we could have nerfed even more, but I like that they didn't just nerf a couple decks. They said if we're going to bring the power level down, we got to kind of look at the whole meta as a thing and reduce as much as we can. Now they didn't really touch. Yeah, they hit Reska. They didn't really touch Demon Hunter. Excuse me, Death Knight. So Death Knight is probably still pretty strong. I think Asteroid Shaman will still be pretty strong. Hopefully that gets better. I'm okay with that. And we'll see how it goes. But we also got buffs, so let's talk about those. The dev comment is we looked at the Great Dark Beyond data. We found some of these cards with runes for buffs, so we made adjustments across a wide range of new cards with an emphasis on promoting the expansion's marquee archetypes. So Ascara, a priest legendary, was old mana 5 mana 4/5. Now it's 4 mana 4/4. Battlecry, the next Draenei you play summons a copy of itself. I mean, okay, so you get to play it down a little turn earlier. I'm not sure what we're playing on turn 5 to make this a little earlier, but I mean the buff is fine. Deirdre, Rebel Captain, old. This is the Demon Hunter legendary. Old was Rush, Battlecry, shuffle all 8 crewmates into your deck. Death Rattle, draw 1. New, Death Rattle, shuffle all 8 crewmates into your deck. Death Rattle, draw 2 crewmates. So it's not only just draw a crewmate when it dies, but now it's drawing 2. Okay. One of the problems with with this card that it was too slow because you want to have those crewmates in your hand. Shuffling into your deck now pollutes your deck. I mean, great that you do have crewmates, which you want, but it just kind of makes it so you can't get to some other cards. I still don't think this buff makes a real big difference, but let's see what else they have done with the recruits or the crewmates. Voronei, Voronei. I'm not even going to try to get it right. Recruiter was old, was 1/3, now is a 2/3. This is a 2 mana 2/3 now. At the end of your turn, get a 4/4 crewmate with a random bonus effect. So it's a generator. I think that this would have been better as a 1 mana card, but that might have been too strong. Now we have some Paladin buffs. Interstellar Star Slicer. Old was 2/3. Now it's 3. Now it's a 3/2. This I think is a great change because one, it allows you to clear things better because 3 is usually a pretty big breakpoint for clearing, but also you can Battle Cry and Death Rattle, reduce the cost of your Librams by 1. Now you can pretty much hit the Death Rattle on the second turn rather than the third turn, which was one of the biggest problems with the Librams was they were discounting too slowly, and this will speed it up a bit. We also have Ural, Beacon of Hope. Old was 5 mana 4/3. New is 4 mana 3/3. And this is Death Rattle, get 3 different Librams from an older timeline. This this buff seems fine. Now we have Fellfire Thrusters, which was it was a 2/3, now it's a 2/4. This is now a 3 mana 2/4. Spell Burst, deal this minion's attack damage to 2 random enemy minions, Starship Piece. This is a pretty good card as it is. So we'll see if this makes a difference. We also now have Shatari Cloakfield. Old was a 1/3, now it's a 1/4. This is now a 2 mana 1/4 Druid minion. Elusive. Your first spell each turn costs 1 less, Starship Piece. So when you think of any of these things, just think about the fact that they're going to be on a starship, and giving your starship elusive, not bad. And your spell each turn costs 1 less. So you got a few on these, you can get some pretty good value out of that. This was one of the cards I know people were excited about out of Druid, so we'll see if this makes a difference. Death Knight, the Gravitational Displacer, which was a 4/3, is now a 5/4, so it's now a 5 mana 5/4 Starship Piece. When this is launched, summon a copy of the Starship. That is a really, really nice effect. So maybe this has been the only kind of starship that supposedly is any real good, was real good before the patch, right? Or at least decent enough to play during the patch. So making this stronger seems maybe unnecessary, but again, they just want to promote the archetype. They can always bring things back down in line later if something's too strong in the new meta. Starship Schematic. Old, discover a starship piece from another class. Now it's discover a starship piece from another class. It costs 1 less. This is the rogue card. The rogue theme is to kind of salvage, scrap, pillage from all the other starships. I like this effect. This is what it should have been all along, because you're basically spending 1 mana to get this, and then so you're basically paying a tax of 1 mana on any starship piece you got. This is the rogue starship. Maybe it hasn't been very good, but I know it was very fun. I enjoyed playing it in theory crafting, so I like this. You also have Scrounging Shipwright, which was Death Rattle, get a random starship piece from another class. Now it's Battle Cry, get a random starship piece from another class. Even better, and it's a 2 mana 3/2. Again, it gives you the opportunity to just get it ahead of time, maybe play it multiple times with Shadow Step to get your starship pieces. I like this change. Exodar. Old was 8 mana 6/10, new 7 mana 6/8. So there's a dev comment for this one. It says, this last change is particularly spicy. We wanted to make sure that Starship's got a chance to shine, but we'll keep an eye on this one after all the changes go live to make sure we didn't push too far into the dark beyond. I added that last part. But yeah, this gets Starships online earlier. We also have Ace Wayfinder, which is it's now a 5 mana, it was a 5 mana 5/5. Now it's a 4 mana 4/4. And this is Battle Cry, game 2 random bonus effects. The next Draenei you play gets them as well. So the Draenei, however Leo wants us to say them, didn't necessarily hit all that hard, but this probably helps a little bit. I don't know if this helps the Warrior Draenei deck or the Mage one, because neither of those have really hit. But this card is fun. The problem is if you play another Ace Wayfinder, you don't get 4. There's no, because it gets its bonuses first, and then it just gets whatever this ones are. So there's potential to get 0 extra bonus effects if you play 2 of these in a row, which is fine. But I would have liked to have seen that change a little bit, because you get to play a lot of these in a row. But this is a fine change. It's a cool card. Next up, we have Dimensional Core, which is we're back to Starship pieces. It used to be a 3 mana 3/2. Now it's a 2 mana 2/2. And this is basically Divine Shield Starship piece. So give your Starship Divine Shield. Astra Vigilant was a 1/1. Now it's a 1/2, and this is Battle Cry. Get a copy of the last Draenei you played. So those are the changes. I don't think the buffs would have done anything at all if they hadn't made all the nerfs at the same time. Now it's kind of bringing the power level down to a place where these buffs might help, but the fact that they had to not only nerf uh, the existing decks, but also increase the power level of the starships and the Draenei and the new Dark Beyond cards, I think is a sign how much they scaled back and kind of went into this very cautiously. Overall, I like the changes that they've made here. I think it's interesting. I think that I'm looking forward to playing some Librams. They didn't buff nearly as much in the Librams as I thought they would. They didn't really buff the crewmates as much as they thought they would. But again, maybe they want to see how the changes, because they have made a lot of changes. And every time you make a change, you can make a change to one thing and it's easier to kind of figure out. But if you make a change to multiple things all at once, that's a lot of variables and it's hard to know where things will land. So I think the nerfs all made sense, and I think that they made high confidence changes to the cards on the buffs that we'll be happy with. I think there's always a chance they might have to bring back the Exodar, and I think they might still have to make another round or two of buffs to kind of align the Dark Beyond with the current play level of everything else. Otherwise, they're going to have to keep nerfing what comes forward. I hope this gives us an opportunity to explore the new space, no pun intended, but also pun intended. But just to play with new cards and new decks, and we have some seeing good things. I'm still loving Asteroid Shaman. I'm still going to play a ton of Asteroid Shaman, but I am looking forward to playing with some of the Paladin, and I'm looking forward to some of the old decks dying, or at least being less powerful. So there's also some there's balance changes to battlegrounds. We're not going to go through those, but there is one thing I do want to talk about as we wrap up here. They did make an announcement that they're putting out rerolls for battlegrounds, and what this is that if you have, whether you have the battle pass or not, when you have 2 heroes or 4 heroes, there's a token you can get. You can get them all. You get a bunch of them for free, but you also can buy them. And what this does is lets you re-roll your hero. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is play to win. I can't believe they're doing this." Blah 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 blah. And when I heard some rumblings of what was coming, I was like, "Oh yeah, are we doing play to win stuff here?" This is so innocuous and trivial that I think we are making a bluster for the sake of making a bluster. It is fairly all it is doing. If this was in the game when it released and you could just re-roll your hero, or you could re-roll the choice of heroes, there's like 15 or something like that. There's over 100 different ones you get, and you think there's already going to be some in the lobby as well. The chance of you getting a better hero than the one you have depends on the hero that you're rerolling, but you could also miss and reroll less. And you can also it just makes it so that way I don't want to play these dumb heroes that I don't like. Give me a chance to play one that I might like to play with. It doesn't affect it affects the game, but it doesn't affect, like, it's no different than if you happen to have rolled that when you first started. This is not giving you an in-game advantage outside of picking the hero, where it's not like you can buy extra tavern refreshes or you start with more gold or whatever. This is a pre-game thing. I don't think it's a big deal. In fact, I know they need to monetize Battlegrounds, and they've been doing a good job with the Battle Pass and cosmetics, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if people are getting cosmetic kind of fatigue, and you need to find a way to get some new revenue in there. I don't think this is going to be used all that much outside of getting free ones, unless you're a real content creator and you want to like target things or you want to whatever. So I think this is simple. I don't think this is a big deal. You feel how you feel. If this is a big deal to you, your feelings are valid. I just think it's a whole lot of bluster for the sake of bluster. There's way more things that I have problems with that we have done in the past. I think that this one is fine. So this all goes into place on December 3rd when the next expansion launches, or the next Battlegrounds season launches, and they made a bunch of changes. I don't think there's a. I think we're going back to classic kind of Battlegrounds. I think there's minion changes, but there's no new mechanic, and trinkets are going away, and that's sad because I really like trinkets. So I'm hoping that they end up being okay and they can stick around or come back soon. But yeah, as far as rerolls go, you feel how you feel, but it's not going to make me not play the mode. And, I'm going to enjoy, I'm not going to buy any probably, but I'm going to enjoy having some that I got free and saying, oh, I don't like either of these two heroes. Let's try a different one. That's fine to me. That's such a nothing. Um, but especially since there's no more lobby legends and no more like super competitive thing. And if there was, you could always disable them. So I think this is fine. So real quick, there was some bug fixes and game improvements. We had various Discover cards: Master Call, Font of Power, Crystal Song Portal, Omega Assembly, Marit Stonebinder, and some PvE cards have been adjusted to more clearly and accurately account for cards gained through the Discover versus alternative effects. We don't normally give refunds for these type of bug fixes, general rules updates, and these changes won't have any gameplay impact in most games, but we decided to include Master's Call in this patch's refund period due to a specific changed interaction with alien encounters. So, makes sense. Battlegrounds fixed a bug where Blood Gem sometimes didn't work when you had the trainer certificate trinket, sure. And fixed a bug where Hearthstone has been updated messages because sometimes block players who, even when no update was available. So if you run into that, sounds like they fixed that. So that's it. New patch. Very excited. Please, if you are trying out new decks and you found some things that are working, I'd love to hear about it. You can message me at TitoSantanaHS@gmail.com. Keeping it real simple there. TitoSantanaHS, just about everywhere you can find me. No shout outs this week. Oh, Bread and Butter, we're coming up on episode 100. That'll record this week. You're going to want to catch that one, even if you don't listen to Bread and Butter that often. We have very special guests. And, been doing it for a while. And thank you, Doc, for sticking with me for all this and all our wonderful guests. And, yeah. So I hope everyone enjoys the pass. But I think I'm done talking. We'll see you.